The galaxy was full of life, bright stars, and proud civilizations. Aliens of every shape and size traveled across space, building empires and trading knowledge. But among their stories, there was one planet spoken of only in whispers: Earth. Once, humans had fought in wars, explored the stars, and left their mark on history. But over centuries, their presence faded, and many believed humanity was gone. The galaxy mocked Earth as a forgotten world, a dead home with no warriors left. In the great halls of alien councils, leaders laughed at the idea of humans. They were fierce once, yes, an old alien scholar would say, but they are dust now. Another would joke, Earth is a graveyard, its people scattered like ash in the void. Generations of aliens grew up believing this story. To them, humanity was a myth, a warning tale told to frighten children. But in the shadows, whispers never fully died. Some traders spoke of strange signals coming from deep space, signals that matched old human codes, signals that should not exist. On a distant outpost near the galactic rim, a small alien patrol detected something. At first, it was only static, a broken sound carried across the void. But when they decoded it, they froze in silence. The words were old, simple, and terrifying. Earth remembers. The commander of the outpost dismissed it, laughing at the idea. But in his private chambers, he felt unease. He sent a warning to the council, but the message was ignored. For why should anyone fear ghosts? Meanwhile, in the markets of alien cities, smugglers whispered of strange ships. They were not alien-made, nor did they belong to any known empire. The designs were sharp, practical, and old-fashioned. Yet they carried a sense of power, a style that reminded many of human warships from ancient records. Some laughed, saying desperate pirates must be copying dead humans. Others frowned, wondering if these were shadows of something greater. Fear began to spread like a quiet storm, but most leaders refused to listen. In the dark void of space, the truth was waiting. Humanity had not been destroyed, nor had they vanished. For centuries, they had hidden, watching, building, and preparing. On forgotten colonies far from the galactic core, humans had endured. They trained in silence, teaching their children that one day they would return. They forged weapons not seen in 1,000 years. Their ships were not sleek like the alien fleets, but built for war. Every hull was armored, every cannon sharpened, every engine humming with deadly purpose. The galaxy thought Earth was silent, but in secret, Earth was awake. The humans carried their scars, their history, and their rage. To them, being forgotten was not weakness, it was cover. It gave them time to learn, time to rebuild, time to prepare for the day when they would rise again. Back in the Galactic Council, arrogant voices filled the chambers. The humans are no more, one alien declared. Their world is lost, their bloodline broken. Another laughed. Let's focus on real threats, not on fairy tales. But far away, stars flickered as massive shadows moved through the void. Warriors born of Earth were ready. Their message was simple. The galaxy mocked them as forgotten, but Earth had not forgotten the galaxy. One young alien cadet asked his instructor a simple question. Teacher, what if humans still live? The room burst into laughter, and the instructor shook his head. Child, humans are dead, and if by some curse they are not, then may the stars protect us. The words carried a bitter truth, a truth no one wanted to face. For deep in the silence of the universe, ships were coming, and with them, warriors carrying the memory of every insult, every wound, every forgotten story. The first part of the storm was only beginning. The galaxy did not know it yet, but they were living in the final days of their peace. The forgotten planet was no longer forgotten. The children of Earth were ready to return, and when they returned, the sky itself would tremble. The Galactic Council chamber was a place of power, filled with tall spires of light and seats carved from crystal. Representatives of dozens of empires gathered there, their voices rising in argument, debate, and laughter. Yet when the topic of Earth came up, the reaction was always the same. Mockery. Humans were wild. Yes, a reptilian senator hissed. But they were too fragile, too violent, too short-lived to endure. A feathered diplomat added. Their planet was burned by their own wars, their people scattered like dust in the void. The chamber filled with laughter, sharp and cruel. For the galaxy had long forgotten the fear humans once brought. But not everyone laughed. A gray-skinned commander, scarred from old battles, rose to speak. His eyes burned with unease as he remembered the stories of his ancestors. You call them extinct, he said slowly, but you ignore the whispers. Ships are vanishing near the rim, he continued. Merchant captains speak of shadows moving in the dark, ships that do not match any design we know. The chamber grew restless, but then the laughter returned. Ghost tales, another alien sneered. You fear shadows because your wars left you broken. His words drew another wave of mocking voices. The warning was dismissed, swept aside like dust on polished stone. Outside the council, ordinary citizens of the galaxy shared the same arrogance. Children were told that humans were foolish creatures who destroyed themselves. Merchants laughed when old veterans spoke of the terror humans once inspired. Even soldiers trained with the belief that humanity was no more. The galaxy had convinced itself of a lie so deeply that truth was now unthinkable. And yet, truth has a way of creeping through the cracks. In hidden corners of the galaxy, rumors spread. A freighter pilot swore he saw a massive dark ship near a dying star, its hull scarred but powerful. He said it bore the ancient eagle of Earth, a symbol long forgotten. Others whispered of coded signals caught in the static of deep space. Signals that carried human words, words that froze blood. We are coming. Still, the galaxy refused to believe. Belief would mean fear, and fear would mean preparation. But arrogance was easier. It was easier to laugh than to remember. Meanwhile, in the silence of the void, humans were moving. Generations of warriors had grown in secret, raised on the promise that Earth was never truly defeated. They carried the memory of humiliation, the sting of being called extinct. Their leaders taught them patience, teaching that the day would come when the galaxy would see their strength again. Now, their fleets were ready, waiting just beyond the eyes of alien sensors. The time for hiding was nearly over, but the galaxy celebrated in blindness. The council voted to cut funding to border defenses, laughing that no threat existed beyond the rim. They mocked the very idea of human survival. To them, Earth was a joke, nothing more than a dead world. The few who doubted kept silent, afraid of ridicule. And so the galaxy prepared itself, not for war, but for peace. They laid down their guard just as the storm was about to arrive. In a dark chamber on one forgotten station, an alien elder whispered to his apprentice, I saw humans once, in the War of the Colonies. His voice trembled. They fought like demons. They burned worlds to ash. They do not stop until victory is theirs. The apprentice laughed nervously. Teacher, the humans are gone. They are only myths. The elder's eyes darkened. Pray that is true, child, because if it is not, the galaxy will bleed. But the warning never left that room. The galaxy's arrogance was too strong. And in the silence of space, the first human fleet moved closer, unseen, unstoppable, and ready. Their message was not written in words, but in fire. The galaxy mocked Earth as forgotten. But Earth's warriors were already on their way back. The galaxy moved on with its arrogance, but the stars had begun to whisper a different truth. Merchant ships traveling near the rim started sending strange reports. They spoke of shadows following them, ships that moved without lights, without signals, and without names. Some captains swore they saw massive hulls drifting silently, their weapons hidden but ready. Others claimed they heard voices on the comms, deep human voices speaking in old codes. The officials laughed and dismissed it as space madness, but fear began to settle in the hearts of common people. In a small trading hub on the edge of neutral space, a group of alien merchants argued over drinks. One insisted that he saw a warship unlike any he had seen before. It had no banners, no markings of the great empires, he said, his eyes wide. But the shape, it was human, I swear. The others laughed, calling him a fool, but their laughter was nervous. For even they had heard the rumors, and rumors do not grow without roots. The first real sign came when an entire patrol fleet vanished near a dying star system. No distress signals, no wreckage, nothing but silence. At first, the council blamed pirates, but pirates do not erase fleets without leaving proof. The few who remembered human tactics grew uneasy. Only humans fight like this, whispered an old admiral, silent, precise, leaving nothing behind but fear. His warning was ignored, for the council preferred denial. But whispers spread faster than orders, and fear began to rise, like a storm before thunder. In the darkness of the void, a convoy of alien miners stumbled upon a graveyard. Hundreds of old alien warships floated there, broken apart with surgical precision. The miners fled, but one ship managed to record an image before escape. On the shattered hull of an enemy cruiser was burned a symbol. The ancient eagle of Earth, spread wide like wings of fire. The image spread across the underground networks of the galaxy, and those who saw it felt their blood run cold. Because it was not just a mark, it was a warning. Meanwhile, on forgotten human colonies hidden in the shadows of space, warriors prepared. They trained with blades, with rifles, with war machines crafted in secret for centuries. They taught their children the stories of Earth, not as history, but as destiny. Every human child knew the words. We were mocked, but we will return. The time of waiting was ending. The time of war was coming. And in their silence, they smiled, for the galaxy had forgotten them. And forgetting was the greatest mistake the galaxy could make. Back in the heart of alien space, the leaders still debated. Reports of missing fleets were brushed aside as accidents. Warnings of strange signals were silenced. Fearful voices were mocked until they fell quiet. But even as the leaders argued, more and more ships vanished into the dark. Some said they saw human boarding parties strike with terrifying speed. Others claimed to hear war cries in languages thought dead. But no one dared to bring proof before the council. Because to speak of humans was to invite laughter, and laughter was easier than truth. One night, on a quiet moon colony, a farmer looked up at the sky. He saw streaks of fire moving silently, cutting across the stars. They were not meteors, they were ships, too large, too controlled, too precise. He tried to tell the local guards, but they silenced him. Yet in his heart, he knew what he had seen, and he whispered to his children, "The humans are back." The galaxy did not know it yet, but the signs were already written in the sky. The forgotten warriors were no longer waiting. They were moving, hunting, striking in silence. And soon, their return would no longer be whispers. It would be fire, war, and remembrance. The galaxy had mocked Earth as forgotten, but Earth was about to remind them all. The galaxy had ignored the whispers for too long. It had laughed at the warnings, mocked the rumors, and dismissed the fear. But silence was ending. The first strike was coming, and it would not be gentle. Near the border of a wealthy alien empire, a fleet of patrol ships drifted in formation. They were strong vessels, armed with cannons and shields, confident in their power. The captains joked over comms, laughing about ghost stories of humans. To them, Earth was a myth, a forgotten tale used to scare children. But then the stars shifted and shadows moved in the void. Without warning, dozens of massive ships appeared. They emerged from the darkness like predators, engines humming with deadly power. Their hulls were blackened, scarred, but reinforced with strange alloys unknown to alien science. Each bore the old eagle of Earth, wings spread like fire. The patrol fleet froze, their laughter turning to silence. "Identify yourselves," demanded the alien commander, his voice shaking. The reply came in a single word, cold and powerful. Earth. Before the aliens could react, the human fleet struck. Beams of energy sliced through shields as if they were paper. Missiles tore apart cruisers in precise bursts, leaving no time for escape. Human boarding pods slammed into alien hulls, spilling warriors into the corridors. The fighting was swift, brutal, and efficient. Aliens screamed as armored humans moved with terrifying discipline. Their weapons were simple but perfect, every shot landing with deadly accuracy. And their war cries echoed through the void, ancient voices filled with vengeance. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it ended, the alien fleet was gone, erased from the stars. Not a single distress call escaped the silence. Only wreckage remained, drifting slowly into the darkness. But among the wreckage, survivors whispered of the horror they had seen. They spoke of human eyes glowing with determination. They spoke of warriors who fought as if death meant nothing. They spoke of vengeance older than memory. News of the attack spread like fire across the galaxy. At first, leaders refused to believe, calling it lies spread by pirates. But soon, more fleets began to vanish. Mining stations went dark, convoys disappeared, colonies burned in silence. Everywhere the same mark was left, the eagle of Earth carved into metal and stone. It was not conquest, it was a message, a reminder that the forgotten were no longer forgotten. The council met in panic, voices raised in fear and anger. "Who are they?" shouted one. "They cannot be human. Humans are gone," cried another. But deep inside, they all knew the truth. The style of war, the brutality, the precision. It could only be humanity. The ghosts of Earth had returned, and they were not ghosts at all. They were warriors, living, breathing, and unstoppable. Across alien worlds, people began to whisper again. Old veterans told their families, "This is how humans fight." Children who once laughed at the myths now trembled at bedtime stories. Merchants prayed they would never see the eagle of Earth. But prayers could not stop the storm, for the humans had begun their campaign. And the first strike was only the beginning. In the silence of space, the human fleet regrouped. Their commanders spoke few words, their voices steady. "This is not revenge." One said, "This is remembrance." Another added, "They mocked us, they forgot us, but now they will remember." And with cold precision, the fleet prepared for its next target. Because Earth was no longer hidden, Earth was no longer silent, and Earth was no longer forgotten. The galaxy trembled after the first strikes. Entire fleets had vanished, colonies burned, and trade routes went dark. At first, the leaders tried to cover the truth, hiding the fear behind official lies. But rumors spread faster than light. Whispers filled markets, stations, and homes, and everywhere those whispers carried the same word: humans. On one world, a group of soldiers gathered around a flickering screen. It showed blurry footage from a wrecked convoy. Dark shapes boarded the ships, armored figures moving like shadows. The soldiers watched as the humans fought, not with wild fury, but with terrifying control. Every movement was sharp, every strike perfect. One soldier whispered, "That is not the fighting of ghosts. That is the fighting of warriors." And silence fell over the room. In hidden corners of the galaxy, humans revealed themselves slowly, not as survivors, but as soldiers forged in silence. Generations had trained in forgotten colonies, waiting for this moment. Children grew up with weapons in their hands, learning that their lives were not just survival, but preparation. Their motto was carved into every heart. We were mocked as forgotten. Now we return as storms. The galaxy had laughed at them, but now the laughter was gone, replaced by dread. A captured alien officer was brought before a human commander. The officer trembled, staring at the armor, the weapons, the scarred face of the warrior. "Why now?" he asked, his voice breaking. The commander looked at him with cold eyes. "Because you forgot," the human said simply. and Earth never forgets. Those words spread across the stars, repeated in fear, whispered in prayers, and written in secret messages. Earth never forgets. The galaxy tried to resist. Armadas were gathered, fleets were deployed, armies were called from every corner. But when they met the humans, they learned the meaning of despair. The humans did not fight for territory, they fought for memory. Their ships struck fast and vanished. Their warriors appeared like storms and disappeared like shadows. Every alien strategy crumbled under their precision. It was not just technology, it was discipline. It was not just strength, it was fury shaped into silence. Planets surrendered before battles even began. Some worlds painted over their banners with symbols of Earth, hoping for mercy. Others begged for peace, offering tribute to avoid destruction. But mercy was not the mission. The humans had not come for riches or power. They had come to remind the galaxy of who they were. Every strike was a message, every victory a memory carved into the stars. An old alien historian wrote in his records, "Once, the galaxy laughed at Earth, calling them weak, primitive, forgotten. But now the warriors of Earth return, not as conquerors, but as storms of fire, and the stars themselves tremble." His words were banned by the council, but they spread anyway, because no law could silence the truth. The humans had returned, and they had come to stay. In their fleets, human commanders gathered their soldiers. They spoke with calm voices, their words sharp as blades. "We are not here for revenge," one said. "We are here for remembrance. Every world that mocked us will know our name again," another declared. And the warriors answered with a single roar, a sound that carried across ships, across stars, across the galaxy. It was not the roar of anger, but of unity, for they were not individuals, they were Earth. And Earth was no longer forgotten. Fear spread faster than light. Across every world, from shining capitals to forgotten outposts, the whispers grew louder. "Humans have returned," they said, "and they bring fire with them." Children who once laughed at bedtime myths now cried when they heard the name of Earth. Merchants avoided routes near the rim, terrified their ships would vanish. Soldiers sharpened their weapons, but their hands shook as they did so. Alien armadas gathered, fleets that once dominated the stars. They launched together, believing numbers could overwhelm the enemy. But numbers meant nothing against human discipline. When the fleets met, the humans struck like storms. They cut through formations with precision, their weapons burning brighter than suns. Entire battles were decided in minutes. Aliens fled, abandoning ships, surrendering without orders. Fear broke armies faster than any weapon. The galaxy began to remember the old stories, the tales of human wars, when Earth first reached the stars. Back then, humanity fought with reckless courage. But now they fought with patience, silence, and purpose. They did not shout their victories. They carved them into metal and stone. Every wrecked ship left behind was a reminder. Every fallen fleet was a lesson. Earth was no longer a memory. It was a storm that could not be stopped. On a rich world in the core, a council leader stood before the people. He raised his hands and shouted, "We will resist. We are stronger than ghosts." But even as he spoke, news arrived. Another colony gone, another armada destroyed, another fleet erased. The people did not cheer his words. They turned their eyes to the sky in fear. For every shadow could be a human ship. Every silence could mean the end. Planets far from the fighting began to surrender without resistance. Some burned their own fleets to avoid provoking Earth. Others sent messages begging for mercy. But the humans were not interested in ruling worlds. They did not occupy. They did not conquer. They struck and moved on. Their goal was not empire. It was remembrance. To make the galaxy tremble whenever the word human was spoken. Captured prisoners spoke of what they had seen. They described human soldiers with eyes like burning stars. Warriors who moved as one, without hesitation, without fear. An alien admiral broke down in tears as he described the moment his flagship was boarded. "They looked at us not with anger," he whispered, "but with judgment, as if we were already defeated." His words spread, breaking morale across the galaxy. Because no weapon can fight against the weight of fear. Old veterans who once fought humans now became prophets. They told stories in hushed tones, warning anyone who would listen. Do not fight them. Do not provoke them. For once they rise, they cannot be stopped. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy listened. But listening came too late. The storm was already here. In hidden war rooms, human commanders studied maps of the galaxy. They marked victories not as trophies, but as reminders. Each victory was a message, each strike a warning. They spoke little, but their silence carried meaning. "We are not here to conquer," one said softly. "We are here to remind." And every warrior nodded, for they all carried the same fire. The fire of Earth, forgotten once but never again. And so the galaxy lived in terror. Fear hung in every shadow, echoed in every silence, burned in every heart. The empires that mocked Earth were now trembling, because the humans had returned, and fear itself was their greatest weapon. The galaxy had fallen silent. No songs of victory, no laughter of arrogant leaders, no proud boasts of invincible empires. Only whispers, trembling whispers of one word: humans. Worlds that once mocked Earth now lowered their flags. Cities that once laughed at old stories now painted human symbols on their walls. Every empire that once thought itself eternal now lived in fear of the shadows. The human fleets did not conquer, they did not occupy, they did not demand tribute. They struck, they burned, and then they vanished. Each strike left behind ruins and silence. But silence was the loudest message of all, because the galaxy finally understood. Earth had not been destroyed. Earth had not been forgotten. Earth had been waiting. In the Grand Council chamber, the same halls that once echoed with laughter, there was only despair. Leaders bent their heads, no longer mocking, no longer proud. Reports filled the air. Armadas lost, colonies abandoned, worlds surrendering without battle. One elder spoke with trembling voice. "We forgot the humans, and, for that, the stars themselves punish us." Another whispered, "We thought them weak, but we were blind." No one laughed, no one mocked, for laughter had turned to ash. Across the galaxy, alien generals laid down their weapons. Governors sent messages of surrender before the humans even arrived. Some worlds begged for protection, offering gifts and loyalty. But humanity did not accept. They were not there to rule, they were there to remind. A reminder sharper than any blade, louder than any cannon, deeper than any fear. On one battlefield, an alien commander fell to his knees before a human officer. The alien's voice cracked. "Spare us. We remember now. We remember Earth." The human looked down with cold eyes, his armor reflecting the flames of the battlefield. "You remember because you fear," he said, "but fear is not enough." The alien sobbed. "Then what do you want?" The human's voice was steady, heavy as stone. "Respect," he said, "and memory." Those words spread faster than any fleet. The galaxy finally understood the truth. Earth did not seek conquest. Earth did not crave power. Earth demanded to be remembered, because to forget Earth was to invite fire, and to mock Earth was to call death from the stars. On a quiet world far from the wars, a child looked up at the night sky. She saw a formation of human ships passing through the darkness. Her father pulled her close and whispered, "Do not laugh at them. Do not forget them, for there are storms wearing the skin of men." The child nodded, her wide eyes filled with both fear and wonder. And in that moment, the galaxy's lesson became eternal. The last strikes ended. The human fleets withdrew into the dark. No one knew where they went. No one dared to follow. But their message remained, carved into the hearts of all who survived. Earth remembers. The galaxy mocked Earth once, but never again. Because from that day forward, The word human was no longer a joke. It was a warning, and the stars themselves would never forget.